Today I get to interview an artist just down the road from me, but my biggest question still remains, is art dead? Well, here we go. Ingrid Nuss. Is that how I pronounce your name?
Yeah, there's different ways too, but you're doing it right, luckily.
Nuss.
Nuss.
As in like die Nuss.
I've heard
Ons
it.
lees die Nuss.
Ons lees die Ingridniss.
Cool. Well, Ingridniss,
Yes.
based here on the garden route in South Africa, and it's so cool to finally get to chat to you. We've been
Thank you.
talking about this for quite a while, and it's so cool to be here in your studio, in your space. There's a beautiful quote there by Edward Hopper which says, "If I could say it in words, there would be no reason to paint." And when you walk into Ingrid's studio here, you immediately sense her deep connection with nature, with the ocean, and it's just such a cool energy to be in here. So thank you very much for having us. And Ingrid is my brew of the week. She's enjoying some brew kombucha.
So good.
And again, South Africa's first certified organic kombucha, believe it or not.
Amazing.
And it's won several awards, but yeah, so thanks
For
to Brew
good reason.
Kombucha, and I hope you're going to enjoy all your brews. Now,
Thanks.
the floor is all yours. I
Yes.
can see you've got your very high that microphone must have cost the earth.
Got all
Classic.
safety blanket.
Exactly, little safety blanket, your little teddy bear. Did you sleep with that
Just
last
didn't
night?
want to come to a gunfight without a gun. That's
Yes.
a bad comparison.
Yeah, no,
Come
look,
prepared.
this place oozes peace and tranquility,
Yes,
so
no
we'll
gun
just,
talk.
maybe you want to change that
Yeah.
from gun to gunfight,
More like
maybe.
a yeah.
harp to a,
To a music show.
what are those things that all the cool ocean-going hippies play? The little,
Actually, you should know
the
that.
little guitar? Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
You don't want
Cool
to bring,
ocean
yeah,
people.
you don't want to not bring a ukulele
Yes.
to
Beach bonfire.
a beach bonfire.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
Ingrid Nuss,
Can do.
the floor is yours.
Yes.
Tell us, are you from Wilderness? Are you from this part of the world? Give us a little bit of a backstory.
So I definitely, when I first got to Wilderness, felt like this was my home. I grew up in Wellington next to Paarl, so it's not too far from here, inland, but the ocean just called me. So after traveling, studying, and needing to find a place to settle, I knew Wilderness was where I belong.
Yes.
And definitely it brought out the best in my art, so that's become part of my life story.
Yes. Brilliant. And
That was about 12 years ago.
okay,
Yeah, just to put it in some timeline.
perspective.
Yes.
So, were you always growing up at school, and was creativity and painting and art, whether it was using the mediums that you do today, was that always, on your radar? Were you always involved in some sort of creativity?
So I loved painting from a young age, or even just starting off drawing and watching Disney movies and imitating those characters. It's definitely how I loved spending my time the most. But, as a youngster, you don't really know what you want to do in life. And luckily, I had a mother that just wanted me to be happy. So when I told her I wanted to study art, she's like, go for it. Got a student loan, and after a gap year, went to UCT. So that was such an interesting experience, because I thought I was going to go learn how to paint and do printmaking and to learn all kinds of other mediums, but the focus was largely on conceptual art.
Okay.
And I just struggled to resonate with the kind of theory that they taught us. So eventually, from being discouraged to paint as a major, I ended up doing sculpture, and it was almost like I had to still, after studying, find my own voice as an artist. So it was quite an interesting journey. Went overseas, worked for a while, but then trying to realize what it is that I wanted to say was still a challenge. Being here in the garden route and being so close to nature, and realizing that I want to create positive art that has an uplifting message that speaks to the soul, which didn't really work in that academic setting. It actually going against what I was taught was a strengthening factor in that way.
Wow. So if I look at your art, we might have to just go back to that conversation that we've just had. But if I look at your art, you've got, you've got elements of the indigenous forests that bless this part of the world. I believe some of the oldest indigenous forests in Africa are here in the garden route.
Yeah.
So I see elements of that. I see some fantasy and fantasy-like creatures and the more spiritual side in some of your art. And then also animals that aren't from Africa. Like I see a black puma. So explain how you've kind of, that's your subject.
Yes.
Matter, so to speak.
Yeah, which is very diverse.
Yes, yes.
I've drawn from things that that speak to me at the time. I was teaching English in Korea for a year, which opened up the world of Asian art to me. So I loved their stylized clouds, the tiger, the way that they do their very graphic woodcuts, those kind of color palettes. So then I'd go into that for a while, and then I liked the vintage surf posters and the more graphic side of that illustrative vintage travel poster side. Then I'd focus on that for a while. So through the years, I've always taken what I've loved at the time, developed a bit of that, and then eventually after many years, those styles have blended and come together in this place. So it's all those influences that have played a part in my life that have now become part of my narrative throughout. So these animals are symbolic of the journey, travelers, strength, power, and just that security of knowing that everything's going to be okay through this crazy ride. And they manifest in different ways. I love the big cats. They just got that air about them. Even though they're so powerful, they often look so peaceful. So I bring them in different ways just to keep it interesting as well. So
interesting.
The leopard's indigenous to our forest, so I do bring that character in the most. So you still find them here in the wild, even though you never see them. They're so elusive. So it's nice to bring them to light, and then, just posing the questions about nature and conservation as well in that way.
Yeah, there's a strong message of nature conservation in all your characters and in your art. And it's just so engaging because you've got such, there's almost a few styles in one piece, merged.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes your art like dynamic.
Right, and like we are living these days, it's a globalized world. Everything is kind of being recycled in different ways. We're always drawing from certain kinds of artistic styles, and to just put it all in a blender and make it something different and unique in a different combination is, what I think makes an artist stand out. So I'm glad I got here, but there's always room for growth. So it's nice to not have limited myself in any way.
Yes.
And which was hard with the studying processes. There were boxes that if you didn't fit into them, you weren't seen as being good enough to go exhibit in a gallery. You're either too much on the fantasy side, or you're not painting realistically enough. So just overcoming those barriers in your mind and saying art is actually about doing whatever you want, and about the process, and which brings out the best creativity in you. So it's been fun, to say the least. Not initially, because you're always your worst critic, but now being at that point where I know that works with that, and the pattern work just forms visual interest and makes it fun. So, yeah.
Awesome. We touched on it a little bit earlier, but there seems to be this, well, not there seems to be, there is this shift where artists and creatives are finally actually getting a platform. If we look at the way of the world in terms of NFTs and how art is now being, creatives are being rewarded for their hard work, and every creative has had some sort of a tough journey in the past, because it's not easy to get that exposure. And so have you noticed, has it impacted you? Have you felt like some sort of like pressure lifting as arts and creatives are more appreciated?
Absolutely, yeah. I can't tell you how beneficial it's been to just be able to showcase my art on back in the day more Facebook, but now on Instagram, just having those platforms which are accessible to anyone in the world. I mean, you can ship these artworks anywhere as well, but also like you said, the NFT space, which is now digital art, which now instead of a couple of thousands, tens of thousands, millions, it really gives you the freedom to also do whatever you want without the specific curator telling you this is what we think works, and encouraging you to believe in yourself. So I think it's such a great time to be an artist. And in a way, I feel like it's a way for us to retain our uniqueness in a world that's becoming very similar. So bigger corporations are all pushing us into, buying the same things, going to the same places, whereas artists are alternative thinkers. So we're challenging society's progression in that way, and we're keeping our authenticity as human beings. So that resistance to me is exciting in itself to be a part of, and it's empowering us a lot.
And I think what's beautiful about your art is you're keeping us connected and grounded to, which is intrinsically most important to us as a human on Earth, is nature. And I think that's what I love about your art, and I think that's what a lot of people, especially foreign visitors who come to South Africa, they almost want to take a piece of Africa home with them. And I think that's what your art gives your audience and to whomever visits here. I mean, it's a piece of Africa, and it's a very special piece of Africa because of where we are. Very interesting.
Thank you. And the fact that it's a little bit different, it's like South African art or African art with a difference. It stands out to a lot of foreign travelers. But I must say, it just comes so easily just after a hike in the forest. You just like tapping into that innate creative energy that is in this world, in this earth, in nature. So it's nice when it just, you can access that at any time. It's all around you. The combination of the mountain, the wild ocean, and this thick evergreen forest, which just takes you to Lord of the Rings vibes. So it's amazing to have that as a creative person.
So I'd be correct in assuming that you spend a lot of time in nature, at the ocean, in the forests, to gain the sort of inspiration that you do.
Yeah, so I must say I've sacrificed a lot of forest time for the ocean these days.
Okay, good.
Since I've just been surfing, I just go surfing all the time and not hiking as often as I should anymore. But just the kind of that effect, the ocean's effect. I saw an interview of yours with Liv Stone, and you explained what surfing does to an individual. I'm like, that's it. You just said it so eloquently, and it's so good for yourself and your life and your outlook and every aspect of being a human. So get in the ocean. So, even if you're not surfing, just get in the ocean. There's a tremendous amount of energy there that kind of just uplifts you. For sure. But I must give sorry to interrupt.
No problem.
But I must give my dad credit as well, because he always took us camping. So that, as a youngster, meant a lot to me, because I knew what that felt like to be in the middle of nowhere. We'd go to Namibia mostly, just being in that barren openness, and that night sky really stuck with me, and always looking and thinking, what's our connection to all of this? So that steered me on that path as well, and I think that does go hand in hand with being an artist. So
brilliant.
Thanks
Dad. Is there any other sort of message or anything else that you'd like to chat about that you think is important for people to know, whether about you or just your journey? Or
I think people are starting to realize this more and more, but I think it's a very important time for us to follow our passion instead of what is subscribed for us, or what society thinks which roles we should fill. That is now more important than ever, and that what you focus your attention on and what you believe in becomes your reality, and we forget the power that we actually hold as individuals here on Earth, because we've been brainwashed in all kinds of weird ways to think that we have to listen to the authorities. But there's this beautiful process of transformation that's happening now, where we're realizing that everything you do has a ripple effect, and every hour that passes, that energetic projection can be manipulated in a way. So I think it's a time when that knowing that can have such a great effect to transform this world into a better place for the future, because it does look a bit dismal from all kinds of other angles. So that's a strong message that I've learned and discovered, and I have to keep reminding myself, because it's not always easy to just wake up happy and everything's going to be good, but to know that we all play a part in this in such an important way, and you never know how greatly you can influence the future by the little decisions you make.
No, I agree totally, and I think that you're doing it by creating this, as you say, uplifting art that makes you feel good about the more important things in life, and that's what I dig about it. It just you look at your art and you feel good about it. It takes you somewhere as well. It takes you to this place that is almost, when we compare it to some of the situations and circumstances that people live in on this earth, and by and large, it's the majority, let's face it, that are coping with very difficult circumstances, not ones that are created by themselves, but just by force majeure.
Yes.
And I think that when you get to look at something that is uplifting, it helps you cope emotionally and psychologically. And I think that's what I dig about your art, is it takes you away to this place where it's almost a peaceful place. We're at one with nature, and the world needs more of that, I think. It needs more positive, uplifting energy. And as you say, whatever you put out has this like ripple effect. So we need a collective that's kind of spreading this energy.
I'm very glad that you see it that way and experience that way. Obviously create these places which I like to go to as well.
Yes.
And it's a very idealistic, and yes, you can call it on the fantasy side, but I do believe these places exist to a certain extent, whether it's an imaginative reality when you go hiking, or if you move on to another life, or these things are coming from somewhere familiar in there, and it's nice it's reassuring in a way.
Yeah. I agree.
I'm glad it has that effect.
Yeah, I'm sure it does on everyone who comes in here and looks at it.
Thanks so much.
Is there anything else? No, I think that's it.
No.
Well, it's been super cool being able to be here with you, Ingrid. Thank you so much for inviting me into your amazing space. Be sure to pull in to a little place called Timberlake. That's right.
Timberlake
Organic Village, where you'll find Ingrid's studio. Please support Ingrid, buy some of her art. I'm going to leave all the links down below, because I assume we can buy your art online, and you can ship to everywhere but the moon and or to Mars, unless Elon is going to start taking some. So please buy some of her art online, support Ingrid, support artists. So cool to finally meet you, and thanks very much, Ingrid. Appreciate it. Oh, flip, I didn't hit record. No, I'm joking.